Mommy, I said sorry. Those were the last soft words my 5-year-old Emma managed to whisper before the world went silent. And then, bang, a sound like a metal bat hitting concrete echoed across the entire neighborhood. Karen Mitchell had slammed her steel HOA clipboard into my daughter's shoulder with full force. Emma fell to the ground, screaming, clutching her arm as if it were on fire. Her pink butterfly dress was covered in dirt and chalk dust. My little girl sobbed, "Daddy, it hurts. It hurts so much." Karen just stood there, cold, unmoving, breathing hard like she'd done nothing wrong. And 3 minutes later, SWAT surrounded her house. But before we get there, let me tell you how this nightmare started. The sun was shining. Birds chirped. Emma wore her favorite pink dress, the one with little butterflies all over it. "Daddy, can I draw on our driveway?" "Of course, sweetheart," I told her. "Just stay in our driveway, okay? I promise." She grabbed her chalk box and skipped outside, humming little songs. From the kitchen window, I watched her draw a rainbow, then little stick figures of our family holding hands. I had no idea those drawings would be used against her. Karen Mitchell, the nightmare of our neighborhood. HOA president. Gray hair pulled back so tight, she looked like she was in pain. A permanent frown. Eyes like she could freeze boiling water. For 2 years, she terrorized us. Your mailbox shade is 1% off regulation. Your grass height is unacceptable. Your daughter's toys ruin community aesthetics. She once yelled at Emma, then 4 years old, for playing with a doll on the grass. My daughter cried for hours. We tried reporting her, but she was the HOA. Nothing happened. I was pouring coffee when I heard it. That voice, sharp, loud, filled with rage. "You little brat, what did I tell you about touching this neighborhood with your chalk?" I froze. My cup fell, shattered on the floor. I sprinted outside. Karen was standing over Emma, red-faced, shaking, gripping her steel clipboard like a weapon. Emma held her chalk box to her chest. "I'm sorry. Daddy said I could draw. I'm sorry." "You're vandalizing HOA property," Karen screamed. "It's our driveway," I barked, kneeling next to Emma. Karen stepped forward, inches from my face. "Everything in this neighborhood is HOA property, and I say no chalk." Emma's pink ball rolled toward Karen's driveway. Not inside it. Not onto it. Just toward it. It touched the edge of her concrete by 1 inch. Karen's eyes snapped wide open. "You people never follow the rules." And before I could react, crack! Karen swung her steel clipboard like a weapon and smashed it into Emma's shoulder. Emma screamed, fell, cried so loudly the entire street heard. "Daddy, Daddy, it hurts." I dropped to my knees and held her. "You hurt a child," I yelled. Karen said one sentence that made every neighbor stop breathing. She deserved it. Doors opened. People ran out. Mrs. Peterson dialed 911 instantly. Mr. Johnson ran over shouting, "Karen, what is wrong with you?" Karen backed away, clutching her clipboard, yelling, "She touched my property. This neighborhood has rules. She's 5!" I screamed. Then Karen made another mistake. She stormed inside her house, slamming the door, locking it, and screaming at someone inside to bring the enforcement book. The dispatcher overheard the chaos, the neighbors yelling, me screaming for help, Emma crying, in pain. They classified it as child assault. Possible barricaded suspect, violent HOA dispute. And when that code goes out, you don't just get police. You get SWAT. 3 minutes later, I heard engines, radios, boots pounding pavement. A full SWAT team pulled up, armored vests, helmets, shields. One officer crouched beside me. "Sir, we're getting your daughter medical help. Stay down. We're securing the suspect." Another banged on Karen's door. "Karen Mitchell, step outside, now." Karen shouted back, "You can't arrest me. I run this neighborhood." The SWAT officer looked at his partner and whispered, They surrounded Karen's house like they were dealing with a dangerous criminal, because at that moment, she was. Emma lay in my lap trembling, her small body shaking with pain, her fingers gripping my shirt like she was afraid to let go. A paramedic placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. "Sir, we need to examine her arm. It may be dislocated." Emma cried, "Daddy, don't leave me." "I'm right here, baby," I whispered, kissing her forehead as tears fell down my cheeks. Inside the house, Karen had completely snapped. Through the open windows, we could hear her screaming, "I did nothing wrong. The HOA manual backs me. That child broke the rules." SWAT gave her one last warning. "Ma'am, step outside peacefully, or we enter the home." She ignored them. She started throwing furniture around. Neighbors stared in shock. Mrs. Peterson whispered, "She's finally lost her mind." Then everything happened at once. 3 SWAT officers breached her door. The sound made everyone jump. "Down. Get on the ground. Let go of the clipboard. Stop resisting." Karen fought. She kicked. She screamed like a wild animal. "You can't arrest me! I am the law here! I make the rules!" But the officers took her down safely and quickly, pinning her hands behind her back. Her glasses fell off. Her hair came undone. For the first time in years, she didn't look powerful. She looked small, weak, and pathetic. The entire neighborhood watched as she was dragged out of her house. No one defended her. No one spoke for her. Not one person. Meanwhile, the paramedics lifted Emma into the ambulance. Her tiny body looked so fragile on the stretcher. The chalk dust was still on her dress. She whimpered every time they moved her arm. "Dislocated shoulder," the medic said. "Bruising, swelling. She's lucky it didn't break. Bruising, 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 bruising. She's lucky it didn't break." Lucky. Nothing about this felt lucky. I held her hand as we climbed into the ambulance. "Daddy," she whispered. "Did I break the rules?" My heart shattered. "No, sweetheart. She broke the rules. You did nothing wrong." At the hospital, Sarah arrived running at full speed. She burst into the room and immediately grabbed Emma, crying and kissing her forehead. My baby, Emma whispered. "Mommy, it hurts." Sarah looked at me with eyes filled with fury. "We are pressing charges. She's not getting away with this." While Emma was being treated, police came to take my statement. I told them everything, every warning, every threat, every time Karen screamed at a 5-year-old child. Officer Ramirez wrote down every word. "You're not the first family to complain about her," he said. "But this crossed the line." Another officer added, "She's being charged with child endangerment, assault on a minor, resisting arrest, and harassment." Sarah squeezed my hand. For the first time all day, I felt relief. But the real shock came later that night. A detective came to our hospital room. He looked serious, almost disturbed. "There's something you need to know," he said. We searched Karen's house after the arrest. Her HOA documents, her files, her notes. He paused. "She had files on every family, including yours. Detailed files." Sarah tensed. "What kind of files?" The detective handed us a folder. Inside were printed photos of Emma, playing, drawing, walking home from school. Karen had been taking pictures of my daughter for months. My skin went cold. Sarah covered her mouth and sobbed. The detective continued. "She documented everything your child did outside, every toy she touched, every footstep. She even wrote down what time she left the house each day." I felt sick. "She was obsessed," the detective said quietly. "This wasn't about HOA rules. This was personal." As Emma slept with her injured arm wrapped in bandages, I made a silent promise. No one, no neighbor, no board, no HOA president would ever come near my daughter again. Karen was gone, arrested, exposed, humiliated, finished. And tomorrow, the entire neighborhood would learn the truth. Because this wasn't just an HOA story anymore. This was a monster finally being unmasked. The morning after the shooting, our neighborhood was silent. No kids playing, no lawnmowers, no conversations on porches. Just a heavy, suffocating silence. Everyone knew what Karen had done. HOA president, neighborhood tyrant, now a criminal facing years in prison. But the real story was only just beginning. Sarah and I stayed at the hospital overnight. Emma slept with her little arm strapped and heavily bandaged. Sometimes she cried in her sleep, whispering, "Daddy, don't let her get me." I sat beside her bed and held her hand all night. I promised myself I would never let fear enter her life again. Not from Karen, not from the HOA, not from anyone. At CEDAM, AMM, Officer Ramirez visited our room. He looked tired, but relieved. "She's stable," he said gently. "And Karen Mitchell is being held without bail. The DA is building a strong case." Sarah exhaled deeply. "What charges?" The officer's voice turned firm. "Attempted murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, child endangerment, harassment, illegal discharge of a firearm, resisting arrest. She could be facing 25 years, he said. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel revenge. I felt justice. That afternoon, the HOA called an emergency meeting. But this time, something was different. People weren't afraid anymore. They were angry. The community center was packed more than 60 residents. Whispers everywhere. She terrorized my kids. She fined me for leaving a rake outside. She screamed at my wife. She stalked people. And then the board members admitted something shocking. Karen forged violation notices. She sent fines without approval. She pocketed money. She threatened us too. For the first time, the neighborhood realized they had all been living under a dictator. A man stood up in the middle of the room. Tall, red shirt, angry expression. She shot a child over a ball. Why didn't any of you stop her sooner? The board members lowered their heads. No one had an answer. Mrs. Peterson, shaking with a mix of guilt and relief, said, "She bullied us too. We were scared to speak." One by one, hands went up. Disband the HOA. Vote her out permanently. Dissolve her power. Protect the children first. Within 10 minutes, the neighborhood voted to remove Karen from the HOA forever and place the HOA under external supervision. Karen's legacy was dead. Meanwhile, at the courthouse, Karen faced a judge. She entered the courtroom in an orange jumpsuit, wrists chained, hair messy. She looked nothing like the powerful HOA queen she pretended to be. When she saw me sitting with Sarah, she snarled, "This is your fault. Your child broke the rules." The entire courtroom gasped. Even the judge frowned. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said sternly, "you shot a 5-year-old girl. This has nothing to do with chalk or rules. This is a danger to society." Karen slammed her hands on the table. "I was defending property values." The judge immediately ordered, "Bail denied. Psychiatric evaluation required." Karen screamed as deputies dragged her away. "You can't do this! I'm in charge of that neighborhood!" But her voice faded as the doors closed. That night, we returned home. The driveway still had Emma's chalk drawings. A rainbow. Stick figures of our family, smudged by chaos, but still there. Emma looked at it and whispered, "Daddy, can I finish my rainbow?" My throat tightened. "Yes, baby. You can draw wherever you want. No one will ever stop you again." I sat on the porch while she drew with her left hand, careful not to hurt her injured shoulder. Neighbors walked by and waved. Some brought flowers. Some brought gifts for Emma. Some apologized for not standing up sooner. For the first time in years, the neighborhood felt safe, warm, human. The fear was gone. Karen was gone. But something else was coming, something even bigger. The police found more in Karen's house. More than pictures. More than files. A secret. A hidden truth. Something that would shake the entire neighborhood and expose why Karen targeted our family. Something that would change everything. 2 days after the shooting, Officer Ramirez returned. He walked into Emma's hospital room slowly, almost like he was preparing himself. His eyes looked heavier than before. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, I need to talk to you both privately." Sarah and I followed him into the hallway. I could feel the tension in the air. "What happened?" I asked. Officer Ramirez exhaled. "We executed a search warrant on Karen Mitchell's house today, and we found something disturbing." My heart dropped. "What do you mean disturbing?" The officer's voice was steady but shaken. "She had a hidden room, a locked basement." Sarah grabbed my arm. "Locked? Why?" Ramirez nodded. "It was filled with surveillance, photos, notes, charts, files, all of them, about your family." My stomach twisted so hard I thought I might collapse. "All about us?" "Yes. Dozens of pictures of your daughter, of your wife, of your house, dates, times, notes." Sarah covered her mouth. "Oh my God." The officer pulled out a folder. "We also found audio recordings of our conversations, taken from somewhere outside our home. Private moments, arguments, laughter, Emma singing." Karen had been listening for months. But that wasn't the worst part. Not even close. Officer Ramirez lowered his voice. "Karen wasn't just obsessed with HOA rules. She was obsessed with your family." "Why?" I whispered. He handed me a paper. An old photo. A man in uniform. A soldier. "Who is this?" I asked. Ramirez replied softly, "This is Karen's son. He died in Afghanistan 5 years ago." I nodded slowly. "I'm very sorry for her loss. But what does that have to do with us?" The officer breathed in sharply. "She believed you replaced him." My entire body froze. "What?" "She wrote in her journal that your family stole her son's place in the neighborhood. She thought you had the life her son should have lived. She thought Emma had the childhood he never got." Sarah's voice cracked. "That's insane." "Yes," Ramirez said quietly. "She developed a delusional fixation. She blamed your daughter for being happy. She blamed your wife for being loved. She blamed you for having the family she lost." Sarah leaned against the wall, crying. "So she hated us because we existed?" The officer nodded sadly. "She believed your family was mocking her grief, simply by living next door. She wrote in her diary that chalk drawings were taunts, that Emma's laughter was disrespect, that your Christmas decorations were an insult to her dead son. It didn't make sense. It didn't need to. Delusion doesn't follow logic." Then he told us something even darker. We found a file labeled Final Plan. My blood turned to ice. What was in it? He looked at me with eyes full of sorrow. A schedule of your daughter's playtimes. A map of your backyard. Notes about when you and your wife usually leave. A list of methods, including the gun she used. Sarah almost collapsed. I grabbed her before she fell. "It means," Ramirez said slowly, "Karen was planning something long before the ball touched her driveway." Later that evening, the DA called us. She wanted to upgrade the charges. Attempted murder, premeditated assault, child endangerment, armed stalking, criminal harassment, illegal surveillance. Karen was never going home again. Sarah wrapped her arms around me and whispered, "She could have killed Emma long before this." And she was right. We had never truly been safe. When we returned home, I saw something that broke me. Emma's rainbow drawing, in chalk, still faintly on the driveway. Pink, yellow, blue, colors of innocence, colors of life. The same colors Karen tried to destroy. I knelt beside the drawing and whispered, "Not anymore, baby. No one will ever hurt you again." But the story wasn't over yet. Because the other thing the police found, the thing they hadn't told us yet, the secret hidden inside Karen's journal, would reveal a final twist about our family's summers. A twist that would change everything we believed. A twist that connected Karen to us in a way we never expected. 3 days after the shooting, Detective Harris returned to our home. He didn't knock normally. He knocked like someone who knew his words were going to break us open. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, we found something else in Karen's house. My heart sank. What now? Another file, he said, locked in a metal box, labeled Thompson Origin. Origin? Sarah squeezed my hand. What does that mean? Harris opened a folder. There were old photos inside, but not of us, of Sarah. Photos from college. Photos from 10 years ago. Photos from her old apartment. Sarah's voice shook. Why would she have those? Harris continued quietly. She had records of your adoption case. I froze. What adoption case? He looked at Sarah. Mrs. Thompson, you were adopted at age 5, correct? Sarah nodded slowly. Yes, but that has nothing to do with Karen. The detective looked at us with a heavy, sad expression. Karen wasn't stalking you because of HOA power. She wasn't targeting you randomly. She targeted you because she knew your biological mother. Sarah's breath caught. My biological mother? Yes, Harris said. Her name was Linda Greer. End quote. Sarah gasped so loudly it echoed. My knees buckled. Because that name, we knew that name. Linda Greer was the woman who abandoned Sarah at a church shelter when she was 5, then disappeared. I stepped back. No, this can't be right. Harris opened another photo. Karen, standing next to Linda Greer, arms around each other, smiling. Younger, happier. They were sisters, Harris said softly. Karen Mitchell was your aunt. Sarah covered her mouth with both hands. Oh my God. Oh my God. Detective Harris continued. When Linda abandoned you, Karen blamed her. When Linda died 4 years ago, Karen found your adoption files. She found out you lived here. She believed she lost her nephew in Afghanistan, and she became obsessed with the child she thought stole the place of every child her family lost. Sarah collapsed to her knees, sobbing. She was family? She shot my daughter because she loved my mother? Or hated her? Both, the detective said. Karen believed your daughter was getting the life her nephew never got. She believed you replaced her sister's child. Her grief twisted into delusion, and that delusion turned into violence. He handed Sarah one last paper, Karen's final journal entry. The words shook my soul. Emma looks just like Linda did at that age. History is repeating itself. I won't let another child ruin our family. Sarah screamed. Not a cry. A scream that ripped through the air. I held her as she collapsed. Detective Harris cleared his throat. There's one more thing. Karen wrote a note to your family. We found it near her bed. He handed it to me. The handwriting was messy. Desperate. I tried to save you, Sarah. But you became her. I had to stop the cycle. My hands shook so violently, I almost dropped the paper. She thought she was saving me? Sarah whispered. No, I said. My voice was raw. Broken. She was destroying us. Emma survived. She has a scar on her shoulder. A reminder of the monster next door. Sarah went to therapy, trauma counseling, family counseling. We moved far away from that neighborhood, far away from HOAs, far away from anything that reminded us of Karen. Sometimes Emma asks, Daddy, why did the mean lady hurt me? I crouch down, hold her tiny hands, and tell her the truth, because the mean lady was very, very sick, baby. But Daddy will always protect you. Emma smiles and hugs me. That hug keeps me alive. But sometimes at night, Sarah wakes up crying because no matter how far we move, a part of our past follows us.